Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Taking Territory in a Targeted Market with MAPS coaches Emily Baker and Alexis Wygand. Please note this webinar is being recorded and you will automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have questions for your coach, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar taskbar. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's FASTTRACK@kw.com. That's all for me, ladies. Take it away.
Thanks, Carlos. Hey, everyone. MAPS coach Emily Baker here with my partner, Alexis Wygand.
Hey, guys.
So today it's all about listings, right? Where do we find listings? And specifically, how do we take listings in, a specific target market and really gain market share and territory? So Alexis, where do we start?
Yep, and I want to back up just a tidbit because for those of you guys that don't know us, I want to give you some perspective on what Emily has accomplished and then also where I am. So I'm in San Antonio, Texas. I am a MAPS coach. I'm also leading a team and I am the lead listing agent. So I go on the lion's share of all of the appointments. And this is what we're going to teach you today is what I am using right now on my appointments, and I'm teaching my team. And then Emily, what's your background?
Yeah, so I am a full-time MAPS coach. Prior to being a MAPS coach, I was a leader on a top team. On average, we would list 30 to 50 houses every single month. So I have the privilege and honor of coaching Alexis and her team, and we are implementing, like she said, exactly what we're talking about today.
Yep. All right, so I would say the first thing I want to talk about is just identifying your target market, right? So just like you see on your slide, we've got average price point, we've got average days on market, we've got number of homes sold versus the last 12 months. We want to talk to you about no signage restrictions in maybe some of your luxury or gated communities. And I guess going back to, going back to targeting, these are the things you want to focus on. So for me, like I wanted to focus on the area that I live in because my kids go to school here. I grew up here. You may identify with that and say, gosh, it would be really nice to go on, 90% of my listing appointments within a 5-mile radius because that's what I have. It's awesome. And before I identified the target market, I just was all over the place. San Antonio is a really large area and we sell all over. But as far as our marketing is concerned, when I got focused in and I targeted, everything else in the business became easier because the listings came from the farm. So what I want you to do is figure out the price point you want to list in. That could, there's pros and cons to each. There's pros to working with higher end clientele. Sometimes those don't move as often, right? Maybe they do in this market, but we really wanted to focus on what we consider our bread and butter, which is 300 to 500. Our average price point is 425. So when you're looking at that, you're going to go into your MLS, right? And you're going to say, what price point do I want to focus on? And then I want you to also think about what's the average days on market, because you may go into a community where if that average days on market is 6+ months, is there enough turnover in inventory for you to really target on that? And that goes in line with like number of homes sold. If there was only 5 houses that sold in the entire neighborhood, that's something for you to consider. Versus if you're farming a community that maybe has 50 solds, like how much market share can you take? And then you're going to want to think about signage restrictions. I can tell you one of our top sources, Emily hears this all the time with my buyer agents and our ISAs, is we get so many inbound calls saying, when we ask, like, who do we have to say thank you for sending you our way? And they say, oh my gosh, we see your signs everywhere. Y'all, if I had picked a farm to where we couldn't put signs in the yard, do you know how hard that would be? I don't even think, I don't know that it would have been exponentially harder for us to farm an area. So I'm going to encourage you guys to if you can find a farm that allows signage, like for our open houses, we put up 15 to 20 signs on every open house. It's free, it's easy, so I really encourage signage. Same thing with solicitation, right? You want to be able to go knock on those doors. I know it's COVID right now, but post-COVID, you want to be able to do the lead generating activities that's going to bring in business. And like last but not least, you need to like the area, right? If you get to walk, even when I'll tell you a quick story. When my two boys were young, I put them in one of those Bob double strollers, and I was walking around giving flyers for an open house I was having, and that was the first farm I started. And people still think I live there to that day because they used to see me out pushing a stroller with my kids, and they just assumed I lived there. But it was a pretty area. It was easily accessible. So I'm going to encourage you guys, just pick somewhere that you like walking around, you like being in the area. Because if you don't like it, the reality is you're not going to go to the activities around it. What would you add to that, Emily?
I think that's spot on. I hear this a lot on the coaching side is, how do I increase my average price point, right? Like, how do I do more business in this specific area? I'm tired of getting leads from people who can't be qualified, right? Or people who want to rent, or, the list goes on, you guys. So the biggest thing is, like Alexa said, that you like the area, that the price point makes sense, and that, ultimately that there's a high turnover rate. So there's opportunity, right? We find the opportunity in any market. It's really just what area. The thing about your target market too, Alexis, is it doesn't just have to be a neighborhood, right? We've got a ton of agents who farm a zip code, maybe a price point, right? So you guys can get a little bit creative on the type of client, and identifying your target market is really just identifying the client that you really wish to service, right?
Yeah, well said. That's spot on.
So now we go to, creating your action plan. So first, you've identified your target market, right? We know where we're going to target. We know the area. We like it. We've got it. Now it's all about getting into action. Action is so important, right? Because without execution, how do we have results? So, Alexis, I know that you guys are huge in mailers. People now, since, I see some of the comments in here, like, we can't do this, or, maybe we can't knock on doors, or we can't have open houses. Guys, a lot of people are opening their mail. Or am I the only one that started actually being interested in letters nowadays?
No, I love it. I like it. Look forward to it. Amazon packages and letters.
Yes, 100%. So when we're finding our farm, we've got to have, activities. So do what you can. We know that there are some areas that are, restricted. We know that some areas have different variations of policies with COVID, and yet what everybody can do is everyone can send mailers, right? So just listed, under contract, open house, just sold. You don't even have to have, here's the cool thing. We don't even have to have a listing in that area to send out a mailer. So door knocking if you can with specific flyers. The other thing is circle calling. So circle calling is simple. You get a dialer, okay? So whether that's Vulcan 7, Mojo, Red-X, I mean, there's tons of dialers out there. We've got resources such as Cole Realty Resource, right? Like where they pull neighborhood specific data, and then you can load it into the dialer, or they'll load it in there for you. And then you can call around and you can geo target. You can go, okay, I want to call the top 100 houses that are close to this area. And you can really target by making calls, which again, in some areas, if you can't door knock, or if we can't be seen face to face, mailers, circle calling, we just focus on what we can control. And then like Alexis was saying, signage is huge. Signage, we're building a brand, right? Like we want people to say, I see you everywhere, or it's, you do so much in this area. And the cool thing is when you've only done like one deal in an area and they're like, I see you everywhere. I think you do a lot of business here. That's awesome. That means that you're really maximizing in our opportunity in the market.
Yep.
Alexis, why don't you give a couple examples of things that you do specifically in relation to action items?
Sure. So I guess starting with the mailers, we now really focus on under contracts and solds because we're turning properties so quickly that we've gotten a lot of great responses from that. So those are, I know we have 4 listed. If you're going to pick 2 to focus on, I would pick those 2. If you pick 1, I would do the just sold because people like results. I would encourage you, even if you can't do open houses, we can all do virtual open houses, right? You can even just get on Facebook Live and talk about it, but don't let not being able to sit in a house be the reason you don't put your signage out. If you, like my signs have my face on it, they have my brand on it. I know that's not the case for everyone. However, if you have your face, if you have your name and your brand on it, take every reason you can to, and we have restrictions in our community. I cannot keep my signs out, my directionals for more than 24 hours, but we can get really specific because compliance lady who drives around and tickets me, I know that she's not going to be available every Friday from 2 to 5 when we do our open house. So we do, where there's a will, there's a way, and we still do get our directionals out. We get our open houses out, and guys, we're getting like, in Texas and San Antonio and the whole country, we're getting 20 to 40 people showing up. That's huge. And then, gosh, I would really hone in on signage. I mean, if I had to pick one thing that's free that you can do, even if you don't have the for sale signs, you can even get, those cheap printed directionals. Or open house ones. And I have an agent who is not on my team, and I'm recruiting them. However, they do open houses for us, and he does a phenomenal job of just getting his name out and picking clients up because of his directionals and open house signs. So you don't have to go invest a lot of money, but it does enable you to get your face, name, and brand out. And y'all, every time we hold an open house, we get these nosy neighbors that are, they want to see how we show up, how we present ourselves. And really it's like a first impression interview on if they maybe want to call us to list their house. So that's where I would put my energy.
Yeah, I love it. So then it's our favorite, having the clear message of the market.
Yep. So y'all, we do this, and I am about to shoot my video right after this for my update of my message of the market. Just so you guys can start thinking about this, I do it on my phone. It's nothing fancy, and it's about maybe 45 seconds. So if you guys want to check out social media, you can get examples of mine. But what this does for me and what I want this to do for you is just put it in your calendar and once a month pull the stats, because when you are dropping your kids off, at soccer, or you're in a coffee house, or, whenever you're talking to prospects or even clients, and you can talk educatedly and say, and they say, gosh, you must be so busy, the market's on fire. And you're like, yeah, and this week, or yeah, and this month, we're down to 1.2 months inventory, and a balanced market is 6, right? Like, when you can bring numbers into the conversation, it sets you up as the expert. And that's what we want you to be in the eyes of anyone you're talking to, is the neighborhood or real estate expert. So here's what I'm going to encourage you guys to pull your numbers on. And remember, this isn't on your whole city. This is on your targeted market. So you don't have to know everywhere. Let's just start with the place that you want to focus on and you want to get more business from. So we look at new price changes, new pendings, new listings, new off markets, and new solds. And we actually pull this data weekly, right? So we look at we pull a couple zip codes, So how Emily was saying, like, it doesn't have to be a neighborhood or even one, right? You could have a larger area, but we pull this area and say, okay, there's 17% of the market, right, that is consistently coming on the market, or new homes coming on the market week over week. But what this does is we keep track of it, and it's a rolling last 3 months. So we can always talk to our sellers and our buyers, and it's just a quick screenshot from MLS, but we can show this to people. And when you can show people the data, clarity is power, right? We're empowering them to make powerful decisions. What do you want me to add to that, Emily?
I think that the other thing with the message of the market that I've been seeing right now is just when you're doing activities, reporting on the activities. So, for example, if you received 7 offers on one property within 24 hours, right? Or maybe you got 3 backup offers on a property or whatever it is. Maybe if you have open houses, I actually had a call today with a coaching client, and they did an open house and they had 60 families through. 60. Wow. Yeah. Got let's see, she had, I think, 7 offers or 12 offers or something like that. But anyways, it was crazy. So when we have things like that, right? When we see what's going on, when we, again, action, right? When we're breeding that action, it immediately leads us to result. So when we look at that, we go, okay, well, how can I get that out, right? So if I got, 3 offers on one property in 24 hours, I can only accept 1, right? Like 2 people can't buy the same house unless they're buying it together. So that means that 2 other offers, 2 other people are looking in that area and missed out on the opportunity. So when we're looking at a clear message of the market, when we're looking at mailers, calls, anything like that, I think it's really powerful to give that data of, I have people right now, right? This is what just happened. For some of you who are thinking, well, gosh, Emily, I don't even have a listing. I mean, I can't even find inventory. Where do I start? Start with the buyers that you have. What are the areas that buyers are flocking to? What are the homes that you're writing offers on properties and they're receiving 30, 20 offers on that home? Let's target those houses, right? Let's target those areas, and let's say, hey, we've got buyers right now, and properties are selling quickly over the market. I'm just curious, would it be beneficial for you just to take advantage and see where your equity lies today? Alexis, yeah. You shared a coaching tip last week, and it was around appreciation. I think that would be really beneficial to share with them.
Yeah, that's funny. I was going to add that. So I was in Gary Keller's mastermind, and he said that the average appreciation rate nationally from last year to this year was 8.6%. And I wrote that down and shared it with Emily, and I said, oh my gosh, what if we could just educate people that just by being a homeowner, right? Like, high five, did you know you have about 8 to 9% equity in your house just by getting the timing right? Real estate's no different than the stock market. It's all about timing. So I think that's a really clear, concise message of the market. Have fun with it, Facebook Live it, right? Whatever mode you want to do to broadcast that. It doesn't get any easier than that. Like, it doesn't get any more fun than, hey, guys, and you don't have to even know your local numbers. It could just simply be, did you know that just by being a homeowner, nationally, our average appreciation rates have risen 8.6%. Curious how much yours has risen, right? Give me a call. Reach out to me, email me. Be happy to pull a market analysis on your property. So just educating people that, hey, like, we could probably get you a ton of equity out that you didn't even know you had. That's a fun message.
Yep. So Next is just getting into action. So we identify our target market. We create our action plan. What activities do we want to do? We get clear on what that message of the market is. So we create curiosity with our clients, right? And then we get into action. And the best way to get into action is on your calendar, because we know that if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. So when we create calendar activities, are we creating calendar activities clearly? Meaning we've got the message of the market in there. We have the target audience, right? Like we know exactly what we're doing, what we're saying, and where we're doing that activity. So for example, you'll see on this slide, create an order just listed for 123 North Main Street versus it just saying lead generation. Alexis, you and your team are pretty clear on your calendars. Why don't you give them some ideas on how you guys do this, because you guys farm at a high level.
Yep, and I'm gonna be totally transparent. I was looking on how, I'm on a new computer, guys, on how to bring the chat session up. So say your question again.
Yeah, so you guys get really specific on your activities on your calendar, so especially within the farm. So give them some examples of how you calendar these activities in your world.
Well, let's just start with the open house. We're probably like y'all, we have almost no inventory because the second that we touch something, it sells, which is a good and bad thing. But we typically don't know if we have the listing appointments to be going live to even be holding the open house, right? However, if you were to go look in my buyer agents calendars, you would already see that time blocked. And it is every Friday from 2 to 5 p.m. and it is a reoccurring calendar invite. And when we plan and we block that time off, we're protecting it. And I can't remember a time now when we haven't had one to fill that spot. But even if we didn't have a new listing, we would just do it on an existing one, because it's those lead generating activities that bring in the nosy neighbors about to sell or the unrepresented buyers. Right? If we're not doing those activities, we don't have the leads, we don't have the listings, we can't have the leverage, right? So I would say just get really clear, like block the time off, make it as reoccurring as, if the majority of your calendar, if you can make it reoccurring, it becomes habitual, right? I don't have to put in my calendar that I'm brushing my teeth in the morning or I'm eating breakfast or I'm working out, because it's a habit. And I would venture to say now that if you accidentally messed up my agent's calendar, even my admin knows we hold open houses from 2 to 5. And if you're starting off and you're a single agent and you're like, I don't know where to start, just block off 1 hour and go play an MLS. And that hour can be reoccurring, and that's where you go, because you can define or refine. So it could start off as, this is when I'm going to go define my target market that I want to do. And then you could start to refine, right? Maybe your action plan, which could be delivering your message of the market and getting your marketing in place, right? But as long as you're consistently time blocking that time, it's not going to happen overnight. Have patience. And what we want you to take away from this is it's prospecting and marketing, right? Ideally, we should be a good mix of both. I have 3 young kids under the age of 10. I didn't love the idea, transparently, of being all prospecting based. So when I sat and I had a vision, because I saw someone else was doing it, and I said, oh my gosh, a come list me call would be so amazing. I've never even had one of those. But when we started putting everything in place, 99% of our appointments now are from the farm, and they're come list me's or come help me buy. We found you online. We see you do activities in that area. And if I could do one thing in my career differently, I would have started farming earlier.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. So true. So Alexis, what's the one thing that I'm on this call, I hear you, I'm like, where do I even start? What should I do? What's the most important thing that they can take from this call and implement?
I think it's just committing to either, like I had said, refining what you're doing, or committing to defining the target market that you do want to, that you want to go hunt. You want to go create and take market share. You're going to take territory. So allow yourself that time and that mental space to think through, because this took a lot of time. And you guys might choose a place or a list, and then you go, I kind of don't, maybe I want to do this, right? But just getting something on the calendar. Give yourself 1 or 2 hours to just get started, or picking a way you can refine and commit to it. What about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's exactly just identifying your target market and then pick one of the actions. I'll tell you from a team perspective, whenever we started going, okay, we're ready to work smarter, get really intentional about some of our target market and who we're really looking to take territory from. We were actually going for a higher price point in the beginning. And then what we realized was they had longer days on market. They weren't our ideal client. Some of them were a little bit too serious for what we wanted and how we wanted to do business. And just to be quite frank with you guys, we were like, okay, so we could sell the 250s like that, right? Like it doesn't take much to sell those, and we could turn it quicker. Our listing manager would have more time because they're not like, constantly going through showing feedback and stuff for some of the, listings. And I'm in Missouri, so in our market, our average price point is like 175. So, so some of those 450s. And so what we ended up doing was we really got clear on that high turnover and who it was that we wanted to service. And it was in alignment with who our agents wanted to service too, and who they had fun servicing, right? Our buyer agents loved first-time home buyers. They were thrilled to help them. We had a whole consult process of walking them through the steps simply. So yes, identify who it is for you. It's going to look different for every single person. And it really boils down to who's your ideal client and what's the demographic of your ideal client. And then where do they live? Where do you find them? And then once you do that, just choose an activity, right? Like Alexis, let's have them, find a just sold that maybe your KW office has sold. Or maybe it's that you want to host an open house if you can. Or, you've got buyers looking in that specific market already and you want to send out a mailer.
Yep. So I think we only have 2 minutes left. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to give you guys just some insight, because we are offering a course and it's called the Mega Listing Agent. And this was skimming the surface. We have written a whole new course together. We've spent a ton of time on it. We're really excited. We're going to go deep. We're going to get specific. You get all of our scripts. You get everything that my team's doing, that Emily's previous team, everything she coaches us on. We're giving everything to you. So we do launch April 5th at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Mondays. So we are going to put, Carlos, can we put a link to sign up for that? And then you're also going to get an email. Anyways, all right, so April 5th at 2 p.m. on Mondays. We would love to see you in our course and coach you guys through taking territory and how to become a mega listing agent. And I just want to say thank you guys for taking the time out of your day. It's a Monday and we really appreciate you being present, and hopefully you took something great away from it. But really grateful to have you guys on the call.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We appreciate you.
All right, have a good one.